Number 5. The Gashatokuro. Japanese mythology has been a place for great inspiration the world over. It stretches back into time immemorial, and Japan is obviously steeped in many kinds of folklore and supernatural stories. The creature that I'm going to talk about right now is called the Gashatokuro. The Gashatokuro is said to be created from the bones of people who have died of starvation, like in a famine or in battle. And as we can tell from history, during a wartime, a lot of bodies go missing or are poured into mass graves and just not given a proper funeral at all. It's said that these spirits are unable to pass on and are reborn as hungry ghosts, longing eternally for that which they had. When these soldiers and victims of famine die, they die with anger and pain in their hearts, and that energy remains long after there's nothing left but their bones. This pain and anger permeates and grows over time into a powerful force, a grudge against all that is living, and this grudge twists them into a supernatural force, and in the situation of a mass grave or a mass battle, hundreds of victims can gather into one mass. They can form the humongous skeletal monster known as the Gashatokuro. This specific entity belongs to the yokai family of Japanese spirits, and the skeleton itself is 10 to 15 times larger than that of an average person. It's said that these entities are completely indestructible and too large to be killed and very powerful, so they maintain their existence until the energy and malice stored up in their bodies has completely burnt out. And they feed by stalking the countryside in the darkest hours of the night, looking for weary and lone travelers to feed on. They bite off their heads or use their gigantic hands to crush their victim and then drink its blood. So if you're ever walking on the Japanese countryside after midnight and your ears start ringing and you hear the sound of rattling bones, you're probably not coming back. The first record of a Gashatokuro goes back over 1,000 years, though, to a bloody rebellion against a central government by a samurai named Taira no Masakado. His daughter, Takayashi Hime, was a famous sorceress. When Masakado was killed for his revolt, his daughter continued the cause. Using her black magic and sorcery, she summoned the Great Skeleton to attack the city of Kyoto. So obviously one would not want to have this happen to them, especially since sometimes my ears ring as it is, so my luck I would just kind of discount it as, oh, my ears just ringing again. And then I turn around and see this massive skeleton, and he just kind of gives me the old razzle-dazzle and picks me up and like crushes me, That's not really the way I'd like to die. Number 4. The Firefly Vampire. When one looks at a firefly, you would see a pretty common, yet peculiar, and sometimes, for some people, a nuisance of an insect. One would not look at a firefly and expect to see a cold-blooded and dangerous killer vampire. However, this is just such the case in the African countries of Ghana and Togo, among the Yu people that live there. They have tales of this firefly vampire named the Adze. The Adze is a peculiar kind of vampire because it does not transform into a bat or a cloud of smoke. In fact, it spends most of its time as a firefly. In fact, the Adze uses this form to easily fly under the radar, to sneak in through cracks in the window, cracks in the ceiling, even cracks in the foundation, and sometimes something as small as a keyhole. This vampire loves to feed on the blood of young children, especially that of infants. It will bite the thumb of a sleeping child with its elephant-like trunk and firefly body. While in its firefly form, the Adze is completely indestructible. No amount of magic, no amount of spells, no amount of insecticide or net will be able to keep it out. However, you can trap the entity. Many villages will use coconut milk or palm oil to set a trap, as these two things are considered to be the next best thing and its next favorite food. If the Adze falls for the trap in the firefly form, They must transform back into their quasi-human form, a terrifying figure with a hunchback and black skin, huge fangs and long talons. Once captured, the Adze is vulnerable to be killed by mortal means. If you fail to kill the beast, however, it can attack you and eat your heart and liver, as well as drink your blood. Once captured, the vampire becomes extremely angry and will use its magic to possess an innocent bystander and use them as a medium to communicate with people around. However, this connection is completely toxic, and the person will become very sick and will eventually die. It's also worth noting that the Adze elsewhere is considered to be a metaphor for the insects that carry malaria, such as mosquitoes, and biting children along with other people, passing along the disease. However, one thing is for sure: if I was in one of these countries and I saw a firefly on the wall when I was trying to sleep, I would shoot out the window just to be safe. Number 3. The Mealings, or Milings, depending on where you are. The Scandinavian countries are known for having very harsh, arduous, and long winters. And in the past, the people living through these long winters did not have the luxuries that we have now, such as indoor heating, or being able to just hop in your car and go down the road to the store to pick up supplies or groceries that you might need. Back then, if you ran out of food during the winter, that was pretty much the end. And unfortunately, in certain circumstances, poor parents would abandon their child if they were not able to take care of it. Now, obviously, since no parent actually wants to abandon their child, this was done in secrecy. They would take it out to somewhere deep in the woods where they would not be able to survive, and they would just leave them there. Or in some cases, they would kill them and then leave the body out there in the woods. Even something as simple as, nowadays, being born on a wetlock is, it's no big deal. However, back then, you could be shunned by your entire community if you had a child that was born in a wetlock. And in this case, if a child was born in a wetlock, the same thing would happen. They would abandon the child or take it out in the woods so they would die of exposure, or just get rid of the child. And in this case, the ghosts of these children become vengeful and are filled with pain and loneliness that they never got to have a life. So this results in a grudge against the living, specifically adults. And when walking in the woods, you might hear the cries or the screams for help coming from every which direction. And then a mealing might hop on your back and try to persuade you to take it to a graveyard. If they are unable to persuade you, they will demand it, saying they will kill you if you don't take them there. However, the problem is that the closer you get to the cemetery, to this hallowed ground, the heavier the mealing gets. They're already said to be pretty large entities, and they just grow heavier with every step you take toward the graveyard. And if you prove unable to get them into the graveyard, then they will fly into a blinding rage and will strip you limb from limb, killing you. It's even said that sometimes a mealing can be so heavy that you sink into the soil as you're walking. There have been cases of people having more than one mealing on their back, trying to get them to take them to the graveyard. The mealings, as children, when they were living, were unable to be baptized for the aforementioned reasons, and so under the church they could not rest in peace. And while researching for this specific creature, I actually read a story. I don't have the link for it, but it was on a forum from 2009, I think, where a man said that he was walking through the forest at night in Sweden, I believe it was. And when he was walking in the forest, it was just past midnight. I assumed there was a trail that he was taking. And he said that he heard children laughing and then screaming and everything. And he thought that the story was all fake and all that. So he's walking along and he sees shapes running through the woods. And he immediately thought of the mealings, and he took off running back the other way. So I thought that was a pretty cool little story to add in there, regardless of what people think about it. It was just a pretty cool story. Number 2. The Pontianak. The Pontianak is known as a vampiric and vengeful female ghost. It's said to be the vengeful spirit of a woman who did not get a chance to give birth to her child or who died in childbirth. When luring her prey, it is said that she appears as a beautiful woman wearing a white dress that is sometimes stained with blood, long dark hair, and red eyes. Her presence is known by the smell of decaying bodies, the smell of death, or even that of the plumeria flower. When a Pontianak is stalking the night, it is said that if you hear the sounds of a child crying or feminine laughter, if the laughter is loud, then she's far away. However, if the cries and laughter are soft and kind of whimpery, she is close by and possibly right outside your window. She is known mainly in the mythology of the Indonesian and the Malaysian countries. It is said that when she chooses a victim at random, it is the smell of their laundry sitting out overnight, and because of this, a lot of people in Malaysia choose to bring in their clothes overnight, so they won't attract a Pontianak. And to be honest, I don't blame them, because when she catches somebody, she can use long talon-like fingers that she has to rip apart your body and take out the organs for herself to consume. If she catches you with your eyes open, then she can suck the organs out of your head, which is all the more terrifying, to be honest. Now, during the day, however, it is said that the Pontianak resides inside of banana trees. And speaking of that, I do remember a story that I read a long time ago. I don't know if it was specifically about a Pontianak, but I remember it was something like they were building a road through Malaysia. It's like a very rural area, and there was a certain tree that they couldn't move. Like no amount of machinery, no amount of people could move it or cut it down. So they eventually called a shaman over, and he said that there was a spirit in the tree, and he had to talk to the spirit and convince it to move to a different tree or convince it to leave. And it just kind of reminded me of that. It is also said that the Pontianak has a hole at the nape of her neck, which is its weakness. If you put a nail into the hole at the nape of the neck, she transforms into a beautiful woman, who apparently is a very good wife. Though to be honest, I for one would not want to get married to a Pontianak, even if she was going to be a good wife, because I know that just one random night she's going to tear out my organs with talons. And if you're still watching the video, thank you for getting this far. I would like to invite you to like and subscribe if you like the channel and like the videos. Consider donating to my Patreon, which will be in the description, and have a good night. For this number 1, we travel to Australia, in the Northern Territory among the Aboriginal tribes there. I'm probably going to butcher the name of this tribe, but to me it looks like it's said as the Murchin. This tribe in the Northern Territory believed that death was rarely caused by old age, and was instead the product of this creature called a Mochoi. Now, I couldn't find a whole lot on the Mochoi, but it's said that whenever a sorcerer uses black magic to evil ends, that in a lot of situations this creature will come and take them. Sometimes it will show up and just kill them. Other times it will orchestrate a fatal accident or send some kind of disease their way. I couldn't find a whole lot on the appearance of a Mochoi, but I did find that they are a spirit creature who not only goes after people who use black magic, sometimes they even can lure children into the forest or kidnap the children from their houses and feed on them as well. Now I know that was a little short. In fact, I think that whole thing was under a minute long, but that happens when all you have to work with is a paragraph. Anyways, if you liked the video, I'm going to remind you to like and subscribe, and maybe donate to my Patreon if you want to. There's no obligation to do it. I just put it there for people who want to. All the videos will still be free, because I can't really give anything back to people right now. But I hope you all are doing well, and I hope that you enjoyed this video, even though it was a little short. So thank you, and have a good night.